I read Main Street by Sinclair Lewis. It was published in 1920. Here are some basic facts that I found about Sinclair Lewis. He was born February 7th, 1885 in Sauk Center, Minnesota. He died on January 10th, 1951 due to a heart attack. He is most popular for being the first American to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1930. Lewis had based Main Street loosely off of Sauk Center, Minnesota. The main setting is in Gopher Prairie, Minnesota. It's set before World War I. Towards the end of the book, they mention the war beginning and some minor characters leave to fight. Some secondary places that some of the characters visit are St. Paul, Minneapolis, Chicago, California, and Washington, D.C. There are plenty of characters in Main Street. Here are some of the main characters that I thought were important. The first few I think are the most important. From there isn't any specific order. The story is mostly told in Carol's point of view. She had attended college in Minneapolis and worked at a library in St. Paul before meeting her husband and moving to Gopher Prairie. She wants to turn a small town in the Midwest into something beautiful. Once she arrives in the town, she learns that it's going to take more than dreaming to make this small town into a magical place. Kennicott marries Carol despite being 13 years older than her. He feels happy with his marriage and puts up with Carol in all of her dreams. He only wants to work with his patients, make money, and care for his family. Vida Sherwin is a high school teacher in Gopher Prairie. She becomes the closest thing to a best friend Carol can get. Vida usually tries to keep Carol and the town on the same side because they don't exactly see eye to eye. Vida sees both sides and is able to cool all of them down. Guy Pollock is a lawyer who works in Gopher Prairie. Carol has a slight love interest with him, but quickly fights that urge. He doesn't want to do anything with his life but be a lawyer in this town. He introduces her to the village virus, which is what happens when a town sucks in its people and keeps them there forever. Eric Volberg arrives in the town later in the book. He is a tailor who wants to become an artist. He has many similar interests as Carol, like reading and doing something bigger with his life. They develop a love interest because of this. He leaves Gopher Prairie to not make things difficult with Carol and her husband. Maud Dyer is the wife of Dave Dyer, who owns the drugstore in town. Mrs. Dyer develops a secret love affair with Kennicott when he and Carol's relationship starts going downhill. Sam Clark is Kennicott's best friend and is the same as any other man in Gopher Prairie. He plays poker, hunts, and laughs at the same jokes over and over again at all of the parties. Bea Sorensen is a maid to Carol and a friend. The townspeople don't like her because she's a Swedish farm girl and is being paid more than the rest of the hired girls the town has. Miles Bornstrom is a handyman. He is disliked by the town. They view him as insane and a drunk. Carol finds him as a friend. Hugh is the son of Carol and Kennicott. He is named after Carol's dead father. Fern Mullins is a new high school teacher. She ends up being Carol's friend, but she's also an outcast of the town. Fern is forced to leave town when a male student accuses her of offering him alcohol and kissing him. Mrs. Bogart is Carol's neighbor and is always spreading gossip. She's very religious and is one to force Fern Mullins out of the town for giving her son the alcohol. Again, there are so many characters in this book. These are the ones that I thought had the most dialogue or plot in Main Street. There are two conflicts that I saw in Main Street: Carol versus Gopher Prairie and Carol versus herself. First, Carol is seen as an outcast by nearly the entire town. She offers ideas to change the town, and the original townspeople think she's insane for offering them. They don't see anything wrong with the town they live in. Next, Carol versus herself. She thinks she can do more with her life and does not want to be stuck with the village virus. She takes vacations to Washington, D.C. and California to try and find the meaning of her life outside of Gopher Prairie. The symbols that I noticed kept popping up were trains, nature, and books. I think they all symbolize one thing: escape. Carol uses these items to escape her reality. She once daydreamed that a train would take her away from Gopher Prairie forever. She goes on walks to the countryside to enjoy the beauty of nature, and Carol reads multiple books to leave the town mentally. I thought the themes were small town reality and searching for identity. Carol suspected that in her small town, people would be nice, innocent, and up to the idea of change and growth. People in a small town are usually as this book portrays them. They like to stick together and question the newcomers. They don't appreciate change and like the way things are. Next, Carol is searching for her identity. She wants to do something better with her life. She feels like an outsider in Gopher Prairie and doesn't feel like herself. She tries to change everything around her instead of changing herself. That is the end of my book report about Main Street by Sinclair Lewis.